And thanks for coming into the studio this morning.
Good morning, Chris.
We appreciate you being here.
Glad to be here.
If you are just joining us over the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about the snowmobile safety. We had a recent accident that we're talking about just the other day out of Lake County, and individual in critical condition in Traverse City, and we want to wish that person safe recovery and our blessings this morning. Mm-hmm. It's important that as motorists, especially in the Ludington area, we don't necessarily see a ton of snowmobilers, but if you go out to the rural communities, you are seeing a lot throughout the fields and sides of the roads. When I grew up in northern Michigan, we would see snowmobilers, and they would come across the little property, and you never know what is in or fenced up or anything in that area. So it's important to just kind of do that checklist when we go over snowmobile safety. And with Erin in the studio, from an insurance standpoint, that's important to talk about as well, especially when we're investing so much into these snowmobiles.
Yeah, it's a from a physical damage standpoint, just knowing your surroundings and your environment where you're going to ride. If it's near your home and you've asked permission from some neighbors, that's one thing. But it's when you're going to places, just for fun. Hey, let's go a little bit down this way. It's one thing to be in the right-of-way of the road. It's another thing to be on private property and just not be familiar with, what perhaps log piles they've got or stumps in the yard. Where is the well head, for their out in the rural areas where people have their water. Get their water from. So those are just a few examples of things you just can't see with the amount of snow we have right now.
Yeah, and from a motorist standpoint, we've got to keep our eyes peeled for those snowmobiles that are on the sides of the road, and we do get some pretty healthy caravan of snowmobiles. In some cases, you'll have 20, 30, 40 snowmobilers that will be heading up on the sides of the roads. And from a motorist standpoint, we got to protect them just as much as we have to protect those in our vehicles too, right?
Yeah, it's a defensive driving. That's a technique that's being taught when you're a student driver. Just learning how to really look at all your surroundings. Continue to scan, look twice. And I think just as a snowmobiler, just recognize too that do everything possible to believe what you are in a vehicle. It's just like a bicyclist. So, we as the drivers of an automobile have to watch and be cautious for you and consider the roadway laws. If you're near the roadway or on the right-of-way, you have to do the same thing, including speed and stopping. I saw one yesterday. He did a great job. He actually stopped right there at the stop sign, saw him behind me, and he got into the roadway, but quickly got into the right-of-way and looked like to be a really good, safe snowmobiler, that was right on Hanson here in the Ludington area.
All right, go ahead.
And I feel like, even just because you're on a snowmobile, it's still all the rules still apply. Just like if you're on a motorcycle, anything like that, like you need to ride sober, you need to, follow all the traffic rules, everything like that.
Go
ahead. And especially, I know a lot of the trails, out by where I used to live, deer. At night and stuff like that. Everything's just in the woods back there. I don't know.
Well, and let's talk about some of those, especially when it comes to the who legally can drive a snowmobile in the state of Michigan, and each state can differ from this. So if we have visitors coming here and such, but anybody with a driver's license, unless that person's license is suspended, can drive a snowmobile. And we can start right there, Erin. I had no clue about that. If your license is suspended, that spreads over into even those snowmobiles and other activities that you might enjoy.
Yeah, it's one thing to be on your own private property and putzing around. It's another thing without having a driver's license, to be of age and to be on the roadway. It's just, in Michigan, it's not legal. And so the other thing, Chris, to know in Michigan is, if you're younger than 16, you can actually drive a snowmobile. And on the right-of-way, most roads in Michigan. But you do have to take the state of Michigan certification class and get certified between 12 and then all the way to up age 17. But at 17, you don't need to. But 12 to 16, you actually, even at 16, have to have the certificate.
Oh, that's awesome. I never knew that.
And in order to cross a street or a highway, that person must have that valid snowmobile safety certificate in their immediate possession. So it's not just, hey, I've got it at home. It's keep it in your pocket or pack or wherever, and make sure that that's with you at all times.
It's just like, taking a hunter safety class that, a lot of West Michigan, Northern Michiganders are used to doing, young people. You got to have your hunter safety certificate, your hunting license, fishing license. Also have to have your snowmobile certificate.
You had mentioned this, and want to make sure that our listeners and viewers know that any person under the age of 12 who is being supervised by an adult 21 years or older who is on the property controlled or owned by his or her parents can let them ride that snowmobile, can use that snowmobile.
Yeah, I think as a kid we did that all the time, just on our property, stayed on the property, and Dad basically, in a dad sort of way threatened us that don't go into the road, don't go off the property, you stay on the property, period. That's it. And so even back in the day, that's been pretty consistent for most parents. And that brings up another point, Chris and Janelle, just the insurance part of it. It's one thing to, sometimes people think, well, I don't need to have insurance on this old sled. And I'd say, wait, pause a moment, diving into this topic, just realize that you should have liability insurance if you go off of your own personal property.
Yeah. You never know what's going to happen.
Even liability.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have physical damage coverage because you have a nice sled. It's worth something. It's another one where, hey, this is a 1988, Skidoo. Yeah, I don't need to insure it. No, please do for liability. Because if you accidentally do hurt somebody else,
Yep.
we don't have complete brakes. I mean, some of the newer sleds obviously have really cool systems where they can almost virtually brake on the snow.
Yep.
But at the same time, you hit somebody that's standing out off their sled, there's a liability situation right there.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Erin Doan from Erin Doan State Farm Insurance this morning. What about the scenario? Yeah, I've got a few snowmobiles, friends come over, hey, we're all going to go snowmobiling, and they use your snowmobile, and something happens. How does that work when it comes to the insurance world?
Yeah, insurance looks at that as that it's a temporary use vehicle. So you're basically giving them permission, which you should. They should ask. Shouldn't be ongoing forever. But if they do ask for permission and you let them borrow it for that one time, they're covered. Now, the good bad about that is an at-fault accident on your snowmobile can be really looked at, especially if you do get a ticket. So a lot of these situations where something unfortunately really bad happens can be on a Michigan or federal trail, or can be on the side of a roadway, and the police or the DNR come. It is looked at. Everybody should just know it's just like having a vehicle on the roadway. That's how the insurance looks at it.
All right.
What would you say some of the snowmobile gear is that we should have? Like, say it's the first time I have a snowmobile. What are some of the things I should take or make sure?
Well, I think complete face mask. Obviously, everybody's doing this now. Back in the day, people didn't, but the helmet and make sure that it hasn't been in any kind of accident before. Sometimes people will wear one where they just clunked it or bonked it on a tree when it was sitting somewhere. But I would recommend don't do that. Make sure you've had no incidences with your helmet. Great helmet. And really, the best gear that you can afford with covering all your skin, that is huge. And really good boots, not only for warmth, but also just for strength. And know that, you've got that part, your feet and your hands and your face are so important.
Yep.
All right. If you're just joining us, we're talking with Erin Doan from Erin Doan State Farm Insurance. Let's go back a moment ago. You'd mentioned you brought in the DNR in there. The DNR actually has some great resources on their website of areas that snowmobile trails, designated snowmobile trails that are available. But snowmobiles can be legally driven, if people don't know, obviously on private land without a registration. We talked about that, right?
Right.
Public waters with the registration, but no permit required. So you can be on the waterways there. And that's even a whole beast of a segment that we could go over, because it's so important to make sure that ice is thick enough for that snowmobile. And usually it is by this time of the year. Public trails with permit and registration, and a public highway or county road, and there's some stipulations there, but the DNR has a huge breakdown on their website for the listeners and viewers.
And I would add the insurance certificate. So if you have a sled, I would have the insurance certificate with you in case you do get pulled over to show that it is insured. It's an important thing just to add to what you're trying to do for protecting yourself and your family, and to have that available as well.
Let's switch, not necessarily topics, but the idea of how we can get in trouble if we're riding a snowmobile, and how that works with maybe points or insurance, or the cost of insurance going up. The list of infractions that you can get while being on a snowmobile, driving a snowmobile under the influence of drugs or alcohol. If you're going too fast for conditions, you can actually get stopped by the DNR. If you damage public lands where forestry projects are underway, that could be an infraction. Getting close to a person on public waters or going too fast on public waters. If you're illegally transporting a weapon, that can be an infraction here in Michigan. If you cross a cemetery, airport, railroad, or are within 100 feet of sledding, skiing, or skating areas, that could be an infraction. Using a snowmobile to chase or kill any wild animal. If you drive it in a parking lot and you don't have it under control. And if you fail to report an accident, you can also receive an infraction if you are a snowmobiler. Take us through that and how that can affect our insurance, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I would say for the listener, just a little bit of common sense. But as it relates to, okay, I just pulled with my nice truck, my snowmobile trailer and its sleds, and then you fire up your snowmobile, and I would have the same mentality as you just did driving your vehicle to get to the trail. So just know that the laws of the road in Michigan and common sense as it relates to other people's property, and that is critical. So as it relates to insurance, if you have an accident, physical damage, you can have coverage. So whether that's hitting a tree or getting in a collision, it's just like a collision that you would have with an auto. So just realize that that's how the insurance works. Now, the good thing in that as it relates to, homeowners, just real briefly, is that we write State Farm separate snowmobile policies to keep it off of homeowners so that you have the best liability coverage on the sled, and to keep any claims off your homeowner's policy. Because if you think of it this way, most homeowner insurance companies allow a couple of, if you will, at fault, maintenance-related type of claims on their homeowners. The third one could actually, within 3 years, could actually cancel that homeowner's policy.
Okay.
So keeping that off is a critical thing. But also realize on the auto side, Chris, if you have an accident and you get a ticket, it does go on your driving record. So it does correlate, and just be aware of that. So insurance is going to protect you, from your liability situation, for your physical damage, uninsured situations. Those are going to be covered on your sled as individual coverages that you can select.
But let's say that you get an infraction, driving recklessly in a parking lot, or you being on an area where you're not supposed to be. DNR writes you a ticket. Could that be points on your license? Could that?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't always show on the insurance because a lot of people go, wait, hold on. Do you guys check, my motor vehicle record all the time? So I'm not trying to give people an excuse or an out, but there are times when we do, especially if you're a younger person, 16 to 25, your motor vehicle record is going to be pulled by insurance companies more often. But if you or anybody in your family has had any kind of at fault in the last 3 years, you're more likely to going to get your motor vehicle record pulled. In other words, the insurance company is going to take a look at it. So yes, many times, Chris, if it didn't come with an accident, that at fault, where you get points, it's the insurance company may not know and may not ever know.
Okay.
So if you've been traditionally a really great driver, this one situation happens, it may not actually hit your insurance.
All right, very good information there. If people want to get a hold of you and talk snowmobile safety, getting their snowmobiles or other fun activities on their insurance or insurance in general, how are they reaching out to you?
So we are the State Farm agent. My name's Erin Doan. I'm on US 10 in Ludington. So we cover, we actually do business across the entire state. A third of our business is out of Mason County. So we'd love to help you. We're a half a mile east of Meyer on US 10. They're kind of between Ludington and Scottville. You can find us at ludingtoninsurance.com or call my office. I have 4 full-time people that work for me. You can reach us at 231-757-3115.
All right, sounds good. Erin, we appreciate you coming in, as always, talking about snowmobile safety in today's topic. And again, for the listeners and viewers, make sure you do review this. Head over to the DNR's website. Check out State Farm's website on snowmobile safety. And more importantly, know where to snowmobile and know the laws about it as well. Erin, thanks for coming in this morning.
Thanks, Chris.